I know what you did to stop him and save Julie Getty's life. And I know the risk involved in going to North Korea and doing what you and Roby accomplished. It was nothing short of miraculous. Any other team would have been dead. He grew quiet again, but for a shorter time now. So I said all that to really say, thank you, Agent Real, for your service. I was in the wrong, and you were in the right. He extended his hand, which she shook.
I'm not sure what to say, Director,
she said.
I think I understand how hard this was for you to do.
The problem is, Real, it shouldn't have been that hard. I'm just too damn stubborn. Look, I know people see me as an outsider. I didn't come through the intelligence field. I'm a political appointee. Didn't know my ass from a hole in the ground. I get that. I worked hard to come up to speed, I really did. But I made mistakes, and you were the biggest one. So my apologies again. He paused. And when this threat from North Korea has been neutralized, I plan on stepping down and letting the president appoint my successor. She looked shocked by this.
Are you sure about that, sir?
Even if I wanted to stay, I couldn't. A higher authority than me has made it very clear that my stint at the agency is coming to a close. Real knew exactly who the higher authority was, but only said,
I see.
And I'm not a young guy, Real. I've got other things I want to do in life. In truth, this job is a killer, it really is. You jump from crisis to crisis, success to disaster, the highest peaks and the lowest valleys. My gut is one big acid burn. I think I've aged more in this job than I did in the previous 30 years of my life. But I don't want to leave until this thing is resolved. And I didn't want to leave without telling you what I just have. He paused again, glanced at her nervously and said, That's all I wanted to say. You can head out now. As they rose, Real said,
So why did you just bust our ass in the meeting?
For now, at least, I'm still the DCI. And I'm concerned that you will not be where I need you to be. That's why. But with that said, I hope you have a relaxing time in Nantucket.
Thank you, sir. I hope I will, too.
Chapter 67. The seas were choppy, though in the twin-hulled high-speed catamaran it was hardly noticeable. Chung-Cha sat in her seat in the heated space, while Min had her face glued to the window, looking at the frothing water. It occurred to Chung-Cha that Min had never been on a boat of any kind before. Until recently, she had never ridden in a car or a plane or a train. The young girl had come a long way in a short time. As the island of Nantucket appeared out of the mist, Min resumed her seat next to Chung-Cha. The ferry was only about half full, mostly with older people returning to the island. Chung-Cha smiled occasionally at some of them, but did not say anything. The ferry passed by the man-made breakwater and headed into the harbor. A few minutes later they were docked, and the passengers filed off the boat. Chung-Cha held Min's hand as they went down the gangplank. The ferry's captain tipped his hat and said, "Enjoy your visit." Chung-Cha smiled.
We plan to.
They continued with their rolling bags to the car rental office, where Chung-Cha produced her license and her reservation and credit card. They drove off a bit later in a small white SUV. As the sun was setting to the west, burning the sky into reds and golds, Min stared out the car window and said,
What are we doing here, Chung-Cha? I told you, just a little trip. Who are those people at the other place? Friends of mine? They didn't seem too friendly. Well, they are. They are good people. You work with them?
Min said, giving Chung-Cha a brief sideways glance.
A little. What is this place called? Nantucket. This is the Atlantic Ocean that you are seeing, where Korea is. That's the Pacific Ocean. I know nothing about any of that.
Chung-Cha glanced at her as they drove along.
You will, Min, I promise. You will learn every day. Even
Here she broke off.
Even what?
Said Min quickly, apparently sensing unease in the woman.
Even when you are tired of learning,
said Chung-Cha with a smile. She had put her destination into the car's navigation system. The island was not large, but the roads were not very well marked, and she was glad of the assistance the computer provided. Min's eyes followed the little marker that represented their vehicle as it traveled along the navigation screen. She asked many questions about the device, and Chung-Cha answered as best she could. Their rental rumbled over the cobblestone streets of the village square. There were a number of people on the streets, and many shops were still open. The weather was not cold, though as the sun fell, it would grow chillier. The briny smell of the ocean was all around them. Min sniffed.
The smell is not so nice. It's fishy. It's not bad. There are far worse smells.
Min looked at her and nodded.
There are far worse smells.
Soon they turned down a winding lane with high grass on either side. The ocean was visible on 3 sides. The cottage they pulled into sat by itself off the road. Chung-Cha cut off the engine and opened the car door. She and Min pulled out their bags, and they walked together up to the front door.
Who lives here?
Asked Min.
We do for now.
The inside of the cottage was quaint and neat, and when Min found that she had her own room and bed, she was astonished.
Just me?
She asked Chung-Cha.
I will be in the room next to it. You will be fine, but if you feel anxious, you will know where to find me.
They had not eaten since lunch, so Chung-Cha prepared a meal from the contents of the refrigerator, which had been filled for their visit. They ate and drank hot tea, and watched the sun finish its fall to the horizon.
It looks like the sun has dropped into the water,
said Min, as they watched out the window.
Yes, it does.
Min spent the next hour going around the house and seeing what was there. The owners had left toys and board games in a closet. Min had pulled some things out and was playing with them, but she did not like it when Chung-Cha was out of her sight for very long. Chung-Cha sat in a chair after hitting a switch which caused the gas fireplace to turn on. When Min saw the flames spring out, she rushed over, her face filled with horror.
We have to get water to put it out. No, Min. It is all right. It is the way it works. It gives off heat. See, draw close. Like this. It feels good.
She and Min stood in front of the fire and let it warm them. An hour later, Min fell asleep on the couch next to Chung-Cha. Now Chung-Cha could get to work. Since she understood that the mission was not expected to produce any survivors, she had to think some things through. When she had, she pulled out her phone and studied the images on there. The 3 Cassians stared back at her, mother, daughter, son. Next, she looked at images of Will Roby and Jessica Reel. She could just tell they were like her. They looked strong and capable and unafraid of anything. As Min quietly snored next to her, Chung-Cha went through all the files and details once more. The plan was still in progress, because they did not yet have an exact itinerary for the first family. In fact, there might not be one, since this trip was apparently not really part of the official schedule, but an impromptu decision. They were all aware from recent news stories that the NSA and other American intelligence agencies listen to everyone in the world, so the use of their phones to communicate, even via text or email, was deemed to be too risky on the island, even if they used code. The thought was that any communications on the island with the First Lady and her children here would be given heightened scrutiny. But it was not as though they could freely congregate and continue their planning. A group of Asians doing so would be a red flag and could sabotage their mission before it even began. But they had to communicate, and they believed they had arrived at a plan to do so while staying below the Americans' radar. and Chung Cha had devised a way for Min to play a part in that. Over the next several days, Chung Cha and Min drove and walked through the town. They made treks along the beach. They collected shells and threw pebbles into the ocean. They watched seagulls glide across the sky and ferries race across the water. Chung Cha had her ears open for any snatches of conversation about the people who would soon be coming here. And details were learned because Americans apparently like to gossip. While they were eating chowder in a local cafe, several men came in. They wore jackets and khaki pants and had earwigs and looked quietly professional. They took a table near Chung Cha and Min. While she pretended to listen to Min, Chung Cha eavesdropped on the conversation the men were having. She learned some important details, including exactly when the party was arriving and how. After they left the cafe, she stopped to write some things down, and then she and Min went to their car and drove off. She pulled into a gas station. Chung Cha eyed the small windowed office where a clerk stood behind the cash register. She folded up the paper she had written on and handed it to Min.
"Do you see the man in there?"
she said, pointing. Min looked in that direction, saw the clerk, and nodded.
"You will take him this note while I put fuel into the car." "What does it say, the note?" "It's unimportant. I'm just giving him some information he needs." "How do you know him?" "I know him from our country." "Why is he here?" "Just take him the note, Min. Do it now, and he will give you something in return for me."
Min opened the door, looked back once at Chung Cha, and then hurried into the little office. Chung Cha pumped gas while she watched Min. She gave the man the note, and he in turn gave her a piece of paper, along with some candy from the rack next to the register. He smiled and patted Min on the head. When Min returned to the car, she handed Chung Cha the note and held up the package of chocolates.
"Can I have these?" "Just one. Save the rest for later."
Chung Cha slipped the note into her pocket.
"You're not going to read what the note says?"
asked Min, as she popped the candy into her mouth.
"Later. Not here."
They drove back to the cottage. While Min went off to play, Chung Cha looked at the note. It was written in code and not in Korean, just in case. They had used English instead. She read through the contents twice to make sure she had missed nothing. Then she let out a small breath as she heard Min laugh. The TV was on, and she must be watching her cartoons.
"It must be good to laugh. It must be very good."
Chapter 68.
"It looks like a baby's bib,"
observed Reel. "Or a bikini bottom," replied Roby. They were in a private jet descending into the airport on Nantucket. Looking at the island from this altitude had prompted their respective descriptions.
"Mars, Venus,"
said Reel wryly. "Guess so." Elena Cassian and her children were riding up front with their protection detail. Special motorcade cars were being ferried over. If the president had been coming, the logistics would have been far more daunting.
"Settled in 1641, about 48 square miles of land and about 58 more of water. 50,000 people during the summer, about a fifth of that during the rest of the year,"
said Reel.
"They call the island the Little Gray Lady of the Sea when the place is fog-bound, which it apparently is a good deal of the time. But on that island is some of the most expensive land in the country. Highest point is Folger Hill, about 109 feet.
Roby stared at her. "Aren't you just the font of information?"
"Google makes everybody a genius."
The jet touched down and came to a stop. Reel and Roby grabbed their bags and headed for the exit. Claire Cassian made a point of stepping directly in front of Roby in the aisle. Her mother and brother were just ahead of her. The Secret Service were already outside the plane, making sure everything was okay before the family exited into the waiting SUV. Claire had on skinny jeans, heels that made her much taller, and a Yale sweatshirt. She glanced back at Roby.
Enjoy the flight?
I enjoy every flight where the plane lands on its wheels. She laughed.
That's really funny. Handsome and a sense of humor. Pretty impressive.
Real turned her head so Claire would not see her rolling her eyes. But she did poke Roby hard in the back and whispered,
God, it must be great to be so popular with children.
As they walked down the jet steps, Claire tripped in her heels, but Roby caught her. She squeezed his arm.
Thanks, Mr. Roby.
Just make it Will. She flashed a toothy smile.
Okay, and you can make it Claire.
Roby was expecting another poke from Real, but it didn't come. He glanced over and saw Tommy staring, not at him, but at Real, while Eleanor was watching her daughter with a look of resigned exasperation. As they stepped onto the tarmac, they saw the 3 SUV motorcade waiting. Roby said to Real, I think you have your own fan club. His gaze led Real's over to Tommy as the boy climbed into the middle SUV. Tommy was still staring at her.
Great,
said Real wearily.
Just great.
They rode in the rear vehicle behind the SUV carrying the Cassians. 2 Secret Service agents rode with them. One of them said, Welcome aboard. Understand you guys are with our intelligence community.
State Department,
said Real, hiding her smile. Yeah, said the agent, grinning. Why Nantucket? Said Roby. The agent shrugged. First lady went to school in Boston. Apparently she spent a lot of time here as a kid. Good memories.
And it must be nice to get away from D.C.
Always nice to get away from that place, agreed the agent. He added, You 2 being here, anything we need to know? Threats? The only reason we're here, said Roby, is because the First Lady asked us to be.
I think she believes we can have a calming influence on her son,
added Real. The agent nodded. He's been having a rough time of it. Not easy for a kid.
No, it's not,
said Real. You think you can help him? Asked the agent. He's a good kid. Never gives us any problems, except when he gets in fights at school.
I don't know if we can help him, but we can try.
So you guys have experience with kids? Roby and Real exchanged glances. Real said,
We work in D.C., so we've lots of experience dealing with children.
The agent laughed as the motorcade drove on. The place where they were staying was within easy walking distance of the downtown area. There were 2 buildings, a large main house and a 4-bedroom guest cottage. The Cassians and their staff would be in the main house. The protection detail was in the guest house. Roby and Real were given rooms in the main house. After she'd unpacked, Real came into Roby's bedroom, which was next to hers.
Feeling privileged to be bunking with the Cassians?
She said as she perched on the bed. Roby put the rest of his clothes away and said, Jury's still out on that. Real looked out the window.
Never been here. Looks nice, if a little surreal, like a Ralph Lauren ad.
Roby joined her at the window and looked out over the grounds. Secret Service will have its work cut out for it. Lots of access points, and that's a public thoroughfare right there. I bet they'd like more of a buffer.
You thinking they're going to be attacked on dear old Nantucket?
Just saying.
It's hard to turn it off, I guess.
It's impossible to turn it off. Never look at the world any differently. Points of attack and counterattack.
Kind of sucks, doesn't it?
Not if it keeps you alive, it doesn't. Someone knocked on the door.
Want to guess who?
Said Real. Come on in, said Roby. The door opened and there stood Claire. Her smile faded when she saw Real.
Will, my mom wanted to let you know that we're all planning to go get some lunch and then take a walk on the beach. She'd really like you to come.
Claire did not look at Real as she said this. Real put an arm around Roby's shoulders.
Tell your mom we'd be delighted.
Claire frowned and said,
Okay. Downstairs, 5 minutes?
Then she spun around on her heels and stalked off. "I'd be careful, Jessica," said Roby.
Why?
"Those are stilettos she's wearing." At the restaurant, Claire arranged things so she was sitting next to Roby while her brother and Mom sat on either side of Real. She said to Roby,
Mom said you were like a hero.
"That was very kind of you, Mother, but all I did was my job, no more, no less." She tapped him on the forearm.
I bet you have some great stories.
Eleanor said,
None of which he can tell you, Claire, so don't hound the poor man about them. I don't hound, Mom. I'm just interested, that's all.
"You thinking about going into public service?" asked Roby.
Yes, and it won't be long. I'm practically in college. You just started your sophomore year, so you really have 3 more years of high school.
Her mother pointed out.
Which will go by like that,
Said Claire, snapping her fingers.
I'm afraid you're right about that.
Said her mother with a sigh and a glance at Tommy. She tousled his hair.
We're going to the beach after this, Tommy. You can add to your shell collection.
Tommy glanced awkwardly at Real. "That's for kids, Mom,"
I actually like collecting seashells.
said Real. Tommy immediately brightened. "I know a lot about them. I can show you stuff."
Sounds good.
Eleanor gave Real a grateful look, and then they all turned to their menus. The beach was deserted and rocky. It was low tide. Tendrils of sea foam and green algae coated the sand and the rocks. The day was overcast and the seas unstable. The breakers banged away, but far from where they walked. Tommy and his mother had buckets in which they were collecting shells. Real walked next to Tommy, while Claire was glued to Roby. The protection detail, dressed in windbreakers and jeans, formed a loose circle around them all.
I'm really glad you came up here with us, Will,
said Claire. "You'd probably like to be back home with your friends," said Roby.
Oh, no way. My friends are okay, but they're pretty immature, especially the boys.
"Yeah," said Roby uncomfortably. He looked over at Real for help, but she smiled and quickly looked away, focusing on Tommy and his bucket of shells. Tommy held one up for her. "My dad said shells can come from thousands of miles away. This one might have started off near China or something and then ended up here. Pretty cool."
Pretty cool,
said Real. "Are you married?" Tommy asked.
No.
"Were you ever?"
No. Why do you ask?
"Well, I mean, most women your age are married, aren't they?"
I don't know, Tommy. Maybe they are.
"Do you have kids?" Real looked past him, out to the ocean.
No, I don't.
Tommy looked disappointed. She added,
But I think I'd like to be a mother one day. I guess I have to make up my mind before it's too late. I'm not getting any younger.
"Oh, you got plenty of time," said Tommy encouragingly. "And I bet you'd make a great mom."
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Tommy bent down and snagged another shell and then pointed to a horseshoe crab scuttling away. "Creepy things." He straightened and said, "Is what you do dangerous?"
Why do you ask that?
"My dad said you guys were heroes, serving the country. That's usually dangerous."
We try to make it as safe as possible.
"Have you ever killed anybody?"
Tommy!
called out his mother, who apparently had overheard this.
I'm sure Agent Real would prefer to talk about other things.
Tommy glanced up, looking embarrassed. "Sorry,"
No need to be.
said Real.
Asking questions is how you learn things. Can I ask you some?
He looked at her nervously. "Like what?"
Like what you like and don't like. Living where you do.
"I don't like any of it," said Tommy fiercely.
None of it? Really?
He hesitated. "Well, I mean, riding an Air Force One is pretty cool."
You're one of the few kids to ever do that.
And the Secret Service guys are nice.
I'm sure.
I don't like people saying stuff about my dad.
I wouldn't either.
My sister thinks I'm a useless idiot.
Well, I'm afraid that would be the case regardless of where you live. It's just this thing between big sisters and little brothers. When you're older, you'll probably be really close.
I doubt it.
No, you will. Because what you're experiencing right now is so unique, Tommy, and you and your sister will always share that experience. She may not let on, but I would imagine this has been hard for her too.
No, it hasn't. Everybody loves Claire.
Really? Everybody?
Tommy looked at the shells in his bucket. Well, there are a few girls at her school that give her a hard time. And she says one teacher hates her because she doesn't like Dad.
So not everybody loves her then?
No.
Your mother obviously loves you a lot.
She's always bossing me, fixing my clothes, my hair, checking my homework, telling me to do stuff.
Right. I guess it'd be a lot easier on you if she didn't care.
What?
You know, she's the first lady. She can do pretty much anything she wants. She could have come up here by herself. Maybe go to the spa, get her hair and nails done, eat out all the time, see old friends. But here she is, bringing you here, collecting seashells with you on the beach. And I heard her say later there's going to be a big Scrabble tournament.
I'm good at Scrabble. I almost beat my mom once.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Tommy looked over at his mom. To Real, he said, "Are you close to your mother?"
She's not alive anymore.
Tommy looked shocked. "Oh, I'm sorry. And your dad?" Real pursed her lips and looked away.
He's been gone from my life for a long time.
Were you ever close to him?
No, we didn't have a good relationship at all, Tommy. Which is, I guess, why I envy people like you. Because you obviously have parents who love you very much. Not all kids do. In fact, too many don't.
Tommy stood there for a bit, fingering a shell. "I think I'm going to show my mom this one. I think she'll like it."
Good idea.
Real watched as he ran across the packed sand toward his mother. Then she looked away, out to the ocean, as far as she could see. When she turned back, she looked upward toward the parking lot that bordered the beach. A small young Asian woman was walking hand in hand with a little girl about Tommy's age. She could see that the little girl was watching them curiously, although the woman didn't glance their way as they trudged along. As Real looked away, she was thinking that life was quite odd, and families, in a way, were by far the most satisfying and exasperating parts of life. Chapter 69.
Who are they?
Asked Min. Chung-Cha glanced at the beach.
Just people, tourists. They are picking up seashells like we did yesterday. Why are all those men around them? And what are those things in their ears? I don't know,
said Chung-Cha.
Perhaps they have bad hearing and it helps them.
In that one glance, Chung-Cha had registered the fact that the two people who had been at Buck Chang were also here. She did not know Roby's or Real's names, but she wondered if they were here because the Americans had been warned about an attack against the first family. This was certainly a complication that needed to be addressed. She pulled Min along as they left the parking lot. Chung-Cha sat on a bench and wrote out a note, folded it, and said to Min,
There is a man behind the counter in that store over there.
She pointed.
He is short and bald and Korean. You will give him this note.
Min took the paper and looked down at it.
What does it say? Just a note. You know this man too, like at the other place? Yes. Now please go and give it to him. He may ask you to wait while he writes a reply. Go now.
Min hurried across the street and into the shop. Chung-Cha could see the man through the window as Min walked up to the counter. There were no other customers in the shop. He had gotten this job very quickly, because after the summer season was over, many of the young people who performed these tasks went back to the mainland. She watched as the man read the note and then wrote out a reply for Min to take back. He took a minute to put together some things for Min in a plastic bag, as though she had purchased them. Min came back across the street with the bag in her hand. She gave Chung-Cha the note, and they walked together back to their car. Chung-Cha sat in the driver's seat and read the coded note twice over, while Min sat looking at her.
"Something is wrong, Chung-Cha,"
said Min, as Chung-Cha folded up the note and put it in her pocket.
"You do not look good." "I am fine, Min, just fine."
They drove back to the cottage in silence. When they got there, Chung-Cha turned on the fireplace and made herself and Min some hot tea. They sat on the floor in front of the fire. Finally, Min said,
"Why did you take me from Yodok?"
Chung-Cha kept her gaze on the flames.
"Are you happy that I did so?" "Yes, but why me?" "Because you reminded me of me."
She glanced at Min to find her gaze full upon her.
"Many years before you were there, Min, I was also at that place. I was not born at Yodok, as you were, but I went through there at such a young age that I cannot remember my life before Yodok." "Why did you go there?" "I was sent there because my parents spoke out against our country's leaders." "Why would they do that?"
asked an astonished Min. Chung-Cha started to shake her head and then said,
"Because they once had courage."
Min's eyes widened, as though she could not believe what she had just heard.
"Courage?"
Chung-Cha nodded.
"It takes courage to speak your heart when others do not want you to."
Min thought about this as she sipped her tea.
"I guess it does. Like when you were defiant in the camp, Min. That took courage. You did not let the guards break you."
Min nodded.
"I hated the guards. I hated everyone there. They made you hate everyone, even the ones who were like you. That is what they do. So the prisoners will not rise up against them. Instead, they would turn on each other. It makes the guards' job much easier."
Min nodded again.
"Because people snitch on each other?" "Yes,"
said Chung-Cha.
"Yes,"
she said more emphatically.
"That boy on the beach,"
began Min.
"What of him? Do you think he would let me pick up shells with him?"
Chung-Cha froze at this suggestion.
"I do not think that would be a good idea, Min." "Why not?" "Just not a good idea. I will be back in just a few minutes."
Chung-Cha went into her room and sat down in front of a small desk set against one wall. She took the note out and read through it once more. The man had voiced his concerns about the presence of Roby and Reel with the first family. He had broached the idea of calling off the hit and waiting for another opportunity. As the leader of this mission, Chung-Cha knew that the assassination plan would go forward. They would not get another opportunity like this one. After the Americans were dead, a note was to be left behind, written in English, that would detail the crimes that America had committed, crimes that had resulted in the North Koreans taking their revenge on the first family. This, it was believed, would hit the American public very hard. If nothing else, the American media would report anything, whether it made the government or country look bad or not. Such would be unheard of in North Korea. She glanced toward the door. Min was in the other room, no doubt wondering what was going on. Chung-Cha rose and walked into the other room. Min was still sitting in front of the fire, her teacup empty. Chung-Cha sat beside her.
"Would you like me to teach you a few words of English?"
asked Chung-Cha. Min looked surprised, but then nodded eagerly. Chung-Cha faced her, and in English said,
"I am Min."
In Korean she added,
"Now you say that."
Min's words came out garbled, but they kept working on it until the 3 words came out clear.
"Now say, I am 10.
Min accomplished this after 5 tries.
Now put them together. I am Min. I am 10.
Min said this, and waited for more from Chung Cha, who apparently was deliberating with herself, her features perplexed.
What next?
Asked Min eagerly. Chung Cha seemed to reach a decision and faced Min again.
Now say, will you help me?
Min mouthed the words first and then struggled through them, but they kept working on it until she could say them fluently.
See? Now you can speak English,
said Chung Cha.
What does that last part mean?
Asked Min.
Will you help me? It is simply a nice greeting, if anything happens to me.
Chung Cha realized at once that she had made a mistake. Min's face was instantly full of alarm.
What will happen to you? Nothing, Min. Nothing. But one never knows, so if something does, then those words will be good to say. Will you repeat it all again? I want to be sure you remember them.
They went through the words many more times, and as Chung Cha put Min to bed that night, she heard the little girl saying them over and over.
I am Min. I am 10. Will you help me?
Chung Cha closed her door, rested her forehead on the wood, and felt her chest and throat constrict, and tears well up in her eyes. She said under her breath, I am Yi Chung Cha. I am young but old. Will you help me too? Chapter 70. After dinner that night, Eleanor Cassian met with Roby and Reel in the sitting room next to her bedroom.
I want to thank you.
She began.
For what?
Asked Reel.
Whatever you said to Tommy really seemed to have made an impression. He told me this afternoon that he's going to control his anger at school and work more on developing friends. He's a really good kid, ma'am,
said Reel.
He's just struggling with being part of the first family. I know this is only a small step and there will be challenges ahead, but it is something very positive as far as I'm concerned. Glad we could help,
said Reel.
I hope you're enjoying yourselves. I don't know where your last mission was, but I doubt it was as bucolic and relaxing as it is here.
It was most definitely not, said Roby. She looked at him.
Now, if my daughter gets to be too much for you, please let me know. She can be quite headstrong and believes that she's already fully grown and knows everything.
It'll be fine, Mrs. Cassian, said Roby. She's a very confident young woman.
Yes, she is,
said Eleanor.
A little too confident, if you ask me.
A bit later, Roby was strolling through the rear grounds of the property and stopped in front of a faded flower bed that would soon be turned under. The air was brisk, and he zipped up his jacket. He heard a door close behind him and turned around. Claire Cassian was advancing toward him. She had on another pair of skinny jeans and a long knitted sweater. In her front pocket, he could see the outline of her smartphone. She had traded in the stilettos for clunky boots that were more suited to the wet grass. She gripped a mug of coffee with both hands as she walked up.
Nice night,
she said. She held the mug up to her face and then said,
Nothing like coffee on a crisp night in Nantucket.
You like coffee? Said Roby.
My mother doesn't like me to drink too much, but when I pull all-nighters studying, it helps. And when I go to college, I'm sure it'll be part of my diet.
She set the mug down on a table next to a swing and pulled out her phone.
Hey, would you mind taking a picture with me? I'd like to post it on my Facebook page.
I'm afraid I can't do that, said Roby.
My mom won't mind. Well, I'll explain it to her.
It's not that. It's just that my work for the government requires me, to remain in the background. She put her phone away, and her casual look and tone vanished.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's not something either I or Agent Reel can talk about. She sat on the swing and motioned for him to sit next to her. Roby reluctantly did. She picked up her mug and looked over at a Secret Service agent who was patrolling the perimeter of the property.
Nothing like having armed guards with you all the time.
But think of the many stories you'll have to tell. There really haven't been that many presidents or that many first daughters. You're in pretty select company.
I guess. It just doesn't seem so, well, great right now.
She paused and studied him.
Have you known Agent Real long?
Pretty long. We trained together way back when.
Is she good?
She wouldn't have lasted all these years if she wasn't.
Is she better than you?
Claire added playfully. Roby looked at her with a serious expression. In some ways, yes, she is. She's also saved my life, more than once. Claire's features turned serious again, and she took a nervous sip of her coffee. He said, "So, you like your school?"
Yeah, I do. I've made some good friends.
She hesitated.
Mostly girls. The guys are...
You said immature? Sorry, that may not change much even when they get older.
It's not so much that, but think about it. They have to come to the White House to pick me up for a date.
I can imagine your father can be pretty intimidating for a young man.
My dad's a softie. It's my mom who's the tough one.
I'm sure she's just looking out for you.
Yeah, well, sometimes she looks out too much.
What about your brother?
What about him?
You two get along?
He's 10. I don't have that much to do with him. He's still just a kid, Will.
He's also going through a rough time. He ever try and talk to you about it?
He would never come to me with something like that.
Why?
I mean, I'm almost 5 years older than he is, and he's a boy, and I'm a woman.
I guess there is sort of a big gap in age between the two of you. Now Claire looked pained.
My mom, she had a miscarriage when I was about 3.
I'm sorry to hear that. Claire looked shocked that she had divulged this information.
Oh my God, please don't tell anyone I told you that. I mean, very few people know, and it never came out during the campaign, and I know my mom would...
Roby said, Claire, I don't repeat things people tell me to anyone. Ever. She breathed a sigh of relief.
Thanks.
But back to your brother. Did you two used to talk?
Sure. I mean, before Dad got elected. He was a governor before then. We lived in the executive mansion and everything, but it was nothing like this. Tommy was a sweet kid. He looked up to me.
I think he still does. She smiled.
There was this one year we went trick-or-treating. Dad went with us on the sly so the camera crew wouldn't follow us. You know what he was dressed as?
Roby shook his head. What?
Maleficent. You know, the wicked character from Disney's Sleeping Beauty. Everybody thought it was my mom, but she was in really high heels and was dressed as Darth Vader. That's who they thought Dad was. It was really fun. It was like our own family secret, something only we knew when, you know.
Everybody knew everything about you. She looked at him.
Yeah.
I saw you had on a Yale sweatshirt. You thinking of going there in a few years?
If I get in.
The president's daughter? I think you'll be fine.
But that's not how it's supposed to work. I don't want to get in because of him. I want to get in because of me.
That's a great way to look at things, said Roby.
Besides, my dad went to Yale. My mom went to Columbia. I'm thinking of UVA. I went there a few times. Charlottesville is beautiful.
Mr. Jefferson's University. The man who could not live without books.
Not a bad guy to emulate.
Roby was about to say something when he heard the bang. In a second he had Claire down on the ground, shielding her with his body, and his gun was out, making sweeping arcs in front of him. He heard feet running toward them, and his fingers slipped to the trigger guard as he crouched down, keeping his free hand on Claire's shoulder. Claire said in a quavering voice,
What is it? What's happening, Will?
In a low voice he said, Just stay down, Claire. I won't let anything happen to you. A Secret Service agent came running around the corner of the house and saw Roby. Stand down, Agent Roby, there's no threat, he yelled. Roby did not yet lower his weapon. The back door of the house opened and Real and the First Lady came out, surrounded by agents. Real called out,
It was a backfire, Roby. Car passing the house.
Roby put his gun away and helped Claire up. You okay? She was shaking but nodded.
Thanks, Will. I don't think I've ever seen anybody move that fast. Claire, honey?
Said her mother anxiously. Claire ran to her mom and the two women hugged. Reel walked over to Roby.
Great. Now you're really her hero.
They sure it was just a backfire?
That's what they reported.
Okay, he said, not looking convinced.
Why, you think otherwise?
I always assume the worst. That way, I'm rarely disappointed. Chapter 71. The team came to the cottage very late at night. Min was in bed. Chung-Cha received them at the door and ushered them in. They sat at the table in the kitchen and spoke swiftly in Korean. One of the men and the woman were the same ones who had ridden on the train to D.C. with Chung-Cha and Min. Another of the men was King Jing-sang, a highly skilled operative from North Korea's Interior Ministry, who had arrived here 2 days ago. They all discussed, and Chung-Cha quickly vetoed the idea of postponing the mission because of the presence of Roby and Reel. No one questioned her decision. They spread out pictures and diagrams and maps and briefing papers on the table. They were calmly discussing it all as if it were a college midterm team project, rather than the plans to assassinate a family. Chung-Cha held up 7 fingers.
That is the number of Secret Service agents. The staff is irrelevant. They are not armed.
The woman said,
But there is local police support.
Chung-Cha shook her head.
I have observed them the last few days. They are nothing. There will be no problem.
And the man and woman, said one of the men, that helped free General Pak's children?
A good thing for us,
said Chung-Cha.
2 birds with 1 stone, I think is what the Americans say. We will kill them at the same time.
She looked at Jing-sang.
My colleague will now discuss what will happen after the targets are eliminated, and his words come directly from the Supreme Leader.
Jing-sang took from his pocket a small vial. The Supreme Leader wants the world to know who did this. He wants them to understand that the United States cannot impose its will on our people without retribution. In order to ensure that such is the case, we will each be given a vial such as this. We will then take the contents of the vial after the mission is complete. It is fast-acting. We will be dead within a few minutes. He looked in the direction of the bedroom where Min was asleep. The little bitch must be taken care of too, he reminded her.
I will deal with her myself,
said Chung-Cha. Jing-sang nodded. Of course, Comrade Yi. And it was good cover to bring her in the first place. Americans never see evil in children. She is from Yoda, correct?
Yes.
Jing-sang continued. Then it hardly matters. It is not like anyone will miss her. It is not like she is one of the core, and thus has value.
Absolutely,
said Chung-Cha. But under the table her fingers curled into a fist.
I am also from Yodok,
she thought. Out loud she said,
Now there only remains the details of the actual attack. We believe that we have it in place, and that it will provide us the best opportunity for success.
She drew a paper from a file and unfolded it for all of them to see.
There is a holiday that the Americans celebrate where they dress in costumes.
Halloween, added Jing-sang.
Yes. It is a stupid thing that they spend much money on. There is a parade that begins in the downtown section in front of a church. It proceeds through the main streets.
But there will be many people around, said one of the men. That means distractions and obstructions and potential chaos. How can we be assured of our targets and reliable sightlines? Chung-Cha said,
For one simple reason. Our targets will be gathering at the town hall before the parade for a meeting with the person who is the mayor of this Nantucket, and a few other important local people. The town hall will be otherwise empty. The parade does not start until 2 hours later. We will strike there, and we will strike hard. We will pierce the outer circle of security, and then the inner. And then we will complete our mission.
Jing Sang said, "How did you come by this information? Is it reliable?"
We have a person who helps to clean the mayor's office.
Chung Cha said.
He overheard them talking, and the itinerary for the town hall event was left on his desk last night. A person photographed it. It is reliable. I have verified it myself.
Jing Sang nodded. Excellent.
And now this holiday, Halloween, gives us the perfect way to breach their security wall.
She knew that the Secret Service was prepared to die to protect its charges, but then she was prepared to die in order to kill those same charges. They finished their meeting and said their goodbyes. Before he left, Jing Sang pressed 2 vials into Chung Cha's hand. "To the glory, Comrade Yi. To the glory." She closed the door behind him and pocketed the vials. Chung Cha sat in front of the gas fire and finally fell asleep. She awoke with a start when she heard the noise. Her hand slipped to her pocket and closed around the knife. It was the same knife she had used to kill the British envoy. The cottage was dark, the fire the only illumination. She heard cautious footsteps coming from the kitchen. She silently made her way to that spot and peered around the corner. Min had poured out a glass of milk and was drinking it at the table. Then Min stopped, put the glass down, and picked up the photo. The photo that Chung Cha had foolishly left on the table. She had fallen asleep before picking everything up and hiding it. Chung Cha went into the kitchen, and Min looked up at her.
"Why do you have this, Chung Cha?"
she asked, turning the photo around. Looking back at her from the grainy photo were Eleanor, Claire, and Tommy Cassian. Chung Cha fingered the vials in her pocket and eyed the glass of milk. Death by cyanide was relatively quick, but not painless. Would a bullet be better? Quick, no pain. Men would never know it was Chung Cha who had done it. She said,
"A friend brought those by. He was just taking some different pictures of people and places here. These are the people from the beach, the boy picking seashells."
Chung Cha came over to her, took the photo, and looked at it.
"You're right. I had not noticed that. I did not hear anyone come tonight. It was late. You were already asleep."
Chung Cha ran a hand down Min's hair.
"Now you should go back to sleep, Min."
The little girl was gazing down at the picture, and then she looked up at Chung Cha. Her lip trembled, and Chung Cha recalled that the reason she had picked Min to take from the camp was her obvious spirit and intelligence.
"Chung Cha?"
began Min.
"Not tonight, Min. We will talk about things tomorrow, but not tonight."
She put her back in bed and lay with her for a while until Min was breathing evenly and eventually fell asleep. Then Chung Cha did not go to bed, but went outside and sat in a wooden chair and stared at a sky that was filled with stars, while a breeze lifted her hair and the smell of the nearby waters filled her nostrils. She took the vials of poison from her pocket and held them in front of her. They were small, yet deadly, just as she was. She envisioned herself lying among the dead at the town hall, the police and American agents swarming all over the scene, the world coming to understand what had happened. Perhaps the Americans and her country would go to war over this, with only one inevitable outcome to that. Then she put the vials back in her pocket, laid her head back against the gray, rough wood of the chair, closed her eyes, and thought of being in a place and a life that was as different from hers as it was possible to be. Chapter 72.
"Oh my God, Will, you can be Darth Vader,"
said Claire, as they were finishing up lunch at the house. She looked fixedly at Reel.
"And you could be Maleficent." "Thanks."
said Real dryly. Eleanor pretended to look hurt.
Hey, I thought I was Darth Vader.
Tommy put down his fork and said, I don't care about the rest of you guys. I'm going as Wolverine. He's like the coolest.
What will you go as?
Real asked Claire.
Oh, I'm really too old for that stuff. I might just put on a wig and pretend I'm a TV character from way back in the early 2000s.
Eleanor looked at Real comically.
Way back in the early 2000s, I have never felt so old. What time is the thing tonight?
Asked Claire.
We go to the town hall first. I have offered us up to be sort of the parade's grand marshals. So we're having a little pre-parade meeting, followed by a reception at the town hall. The mayor will be there along with a few others. Meaning it will be really boring,
said Claire.
Meaning it will not take that long, and it will mean a lot to the folks here,
replied her mother briskly. Roby looked at Real. You up for Maleficent?
I don't have the costume. I had them packed,
said Eleanor.
I knew we'd be celebrating Halloween up here. I was hoping the president could make it, but that's apparently not going to happen.
What are you going to be, Mom? Asked Tommy.
I think this year I'll venture way, way back to the 70s and go as Cher.
She confided to Real, who was seated next to her.
I've always loved all her different looks over the years, especially her hair.
Cher? Cher what? Asked Tommy, looking confused. He had obviously never heard of the singer. Eleanor said,
Need to know, and you don't.
After lunch was done, Roby and Real went outside. Town Hall Halloween Parade?
Yeah, sounds like a blast,
said Real, without a trace of enthusiasm. I take it you never went trick-or-treating.
You take it correctly.
Well, you can make up for lost time.
I'm glad we'll be leaving here soon. I'm starting to feel claustrophobic.
So no islands in your future?
I'm more of a city girl.
You had a cottage on Eastern Shore in the middle of nowhere, Roby pointed out.
That's why I'm a city girl now. I got sick of that.
I guess the Secret Service will scope out the town hall and the parade route.
Guess so. I'm sure they're not too happy about this. Lots of people in costume, easy to conceal stuff, weapons, explosives.
I'm sure they are not happy. At least the president's not here. If he were, I'm not sure they'd be doing the parade.
Are you really going to dress up?
Why not?
And I have to be Maleficent? Huh?
Well, it does fit your personality, said Roby. She punched him in the arm. So, when we get back to the mainland, what then? He asked.
Wait for the next call up?
Doubtful it will be the both of us. They tend to send us out solo.
I know that, Roby.
I'm thinking I have about another year of doing this, and then I'm calling it a career. She looked surprised.
When did you decide that?
It seems like just now, but I've been thinking about it for a while. He stretched his arm where the burned skin was. Your little booby trap on the Eastern Shore made me think about my life, I guess. He smiled to show her he was kidding, but Real did not return the look.
I can't tell you how awful I feel about almost killing you.
We were on opposite sides back then. It happened. I made it out. We're okay. She looked at his arm and leg where she knew the burns were.
I'll make it up to you somehow, Roby.
I think you already have.
How?
Well, most recently North Korea.
Doesn't seem like enough.
Trust me, it was, he replied.
Are you really serious about getting out?
I am very serious.
What will you do?
He shrugged. Who says I have to do anything? I've saved enough money. I live simply. I've seen the world, or at least the bad parts of it. I might just do nothing.
You don't believe that, Roby. Not for a second.
I might do nothing for a while, and then I'll figure it out. He studied her. What about you? You were all fired up to call it a career.
Yeah, but then you said we could continue our careers and have a normal life. You made me believe that was possible.
I still think it is.
But now you're quitting,
said Real, in a tone that indicated she felt he was betraying her. I said I'm leaving in a year. In our line of work, a year can be a lifetime. What about you?
What about me?
I know Evan Tucker had a private discussion with you. What did he say? That no matter how long it takes, he's going to bring you down? She let out a long breath and shook her head.
No, he basically apologized for all the stuff he'd done.
What? Said Roby, looking stunned.
He said I was right and he was wrong.
Had he been drinking? Did his pupils look normal?
I think he knew exactly what he was saying, Roby.
Well, how the hell do you like that? I wonder what happened for him to change his mind like that.
He said he'd reviewed all the evidence and had given it a lot of thought. Plus, you and I had almost gotten killed trying to stop the conspiracy Gelder and Jacobs were involved in. And you and I risked our lives in Syria and in North Korea. I guess it all added up for him.
So, does that change things for you?
How so?
You going to stay on for a while?
I don't know. Probably not, especially if you're not going to be around.
He put an arm around her shoulder. Well, you've got a year to think about that.
Yeah, if I live that long.
Chapter 73. Min had never heard of Halloween. She had never worn a costume. She still didn't understand what Halloween was, though Chung Cha had tried to explain it to her. But she now had on a costume, and she had been given Halloween candy. They were at a small cafe on the main street of the downtown area that had been turned into a kids' party room before the parade was to start. Chung Cha had taken Min, who was dressed as a frog, her face hidden behind the costume, only her eyes and mouth visible. Chung Cha was in the costume of a pirate. The cafe was filled with children in a wide variety of outfits. At first Min had been terrified to have the frog costume on, but once Chung Cha had shown her it was only plastic and cloth and couldn't hurt her, she allowed Chung Cha to dress her up. At the front of the cafe giving out candy were the Cassians. When Chung Cha saw this, she panicked slightly. She had seen security people roaming outside, but she never thought that meant the first family would be handing out candy. She said to Min,
Go get your candy. I will be back.
Then she hurried to the far corner of the cafe, quickly becoming lost among all the other costumed folks. Min looked around frantically for her. With the frog costume covering her ears, she had barely heard what Chung Cha had said, and then, when she saw that she was gone, she started to panic. However, she was being herded with the rest of the kids to receive her candy from the Cassians. As she got to the front of the line, Min was badly scared. She could not see Chung Cha anywhere, and kids and their parents were crowding in on her from all sides. When she looked up, she was standing directly in front of Tommy Cassian, who was, as he had said, dressed as Wolverine. She looked at him, and he looked at her. Nice frog, said Tommy, as he held out a handful of candy. Out of Min's panicked mind came one thought. She said,
My name is Min. I am 10. Will you help me?
Tommy looked at her strangely, as he dumped the candy into her pumpkin bucket. Then Min said something else, but it wasn't in English. She had reverted to Korean. Are you okay? Asked Tommy.
My name is Min. I am 10. Will you help me?
Tommy started to say something, but a hand reached out and pulled Min away so that other kids could get their candy. Min looked around the room and breathed a sigh of relief when Chung Cha rushed over to her. Before she could say anything, Chung Cha knelt down and hugged her.
It's okay, Min. I'm right here. It's okay.
She led her outside and then down the street, away from the crowds. They reached an alleyway where there was a little brick stoop. Chung Cha perched next to Min on the bottom step. She had made certain that none of her team had seen them. They also didn't know that Min was dressed as a frog. Chung Cha would carry out her mission, but Min would be safe. Min was not going to die, not by Chung Cha's hand.
Min, you have to listen to me very carefully, okay?
Min nodded, the frog head bobbing up and down.
I have to go away for a little bit.
Min started to jump up, but Chung Cha held her back.
Just for a little bit.
From the alleyway, she looked across the street where the town police station was located.
Do you see that place over there?
She pointed. Min looked past her and nodded.
I want you to take my watch.
She slipped off her watch and handed it to Min.
Now, when this little line gets here, I want you to go over to that place and tell them what I told you to say. You remember it? In English? Can you say it for me? I am Min. I am 10. Will you help me? That is perfect, Min. Perfect. Now remember, when this line reaches this point, that is when you will go.
Chung-Cha was indicating a time that was an hour past the current time.
But where will you be, Chung-Cha? I have a few things to do, but I know those people over there will take care of you until I get back. They are good people, Min. They will help you. But you are coming back, aren't you?
Said Min fearfully.
I will be back,
said Chung-Cha, forcing herself to smile. And then she thought to herself,
Please forgive me for that lie, Min, and please don't forget me. I only want your life to be a good one.
Min reached out and wrapped her arms around her. Chung-Cha returned her hug, fighting back the tears.
I love you, Chung-Cha. And I love you, Min.
15 minutes later, Chung-Cha joined her team near the target location. They were all dressed in costumes. Jing Sang came up to her. Ready, comrade?
Of course.
And Min?
She is back at the cottage. She drank her milk and went to sleep.
Jing Sang smiled. Then let us do this great deed. To the glory, Chung-Cha.
To the glory,
repeated Chung-Cha. Out on the main street, the elements of the parade were assembling. There were motorized vehicles with floats built on them, a high school band, dozens of costumed zombies, and a plethora of other colorfully clad Halloweeners. There was also a long Chinese dragon that had emerged from an alley. Underneath its cover, one could just make out a number of sneakered feet marching along.
We ready to move to the town hall, Sam?
Elena Cassion was looking at her protection detail leader. He spoke into his walkie-talkie, then gave her a thumbs up. We're ready to roll, ma'am. Side entrance over there, 2-minute walk to the left, and up the front steps. He and another of his men stood on either side of the Cassians as they filed toward the door. Sam gave Roby and Reel a high sign. They nodded and fell into step behind the Cassians. Claire was dressed in a poofed-out long blonde wig with a headband and skinny jeans. She turned and looked at Roby, who wasn't in costume.
Can you guess who I am?
He shook his head, while Reel, who had also decided against dressing up as Maleficent, looked on, a curious expression on her face.
Stevie Nicks. She was a singer with some band way back. That some band would be Fleetwood Mac,
said Reel.
Yeah, them. They were apparently really popular at some points.
I thought you were going as some TV character from way back in the early 2000s, said Roby.
I was, but I couldn't think of any. My mom told me about this Stevie person, and she had a blonde wig. Yay for Mom,
said Reel. The local police and the Secret Service detail surrounded the Cassians as they walked down the street toward the town hall. The sun was setting, and the sky looked nearly molten. The wind was picking up, and there was the threat of rain later that evening, something the parade organizers were desperately hoping would not happen. Chapter 74. They were nearly at the town hall when Roby spotted it. The Chinese dragon marched into place near the front doors of the building. He observed the great many feet under the dragon's skin. He looked at Reel, whose gaze was also on the dragon. Better be safe than sorry, he said, and Reel nodded in agreement. He spoke into his walkie-talkie, and a minute later the Cassians were being hustled into the town hall. Several deputies raced over to the Chinese dragon and started pulling up the dragon's skin. Roby saw astonished faces revealed when they did so. They were teenagers, American teenagers. Roby smiled at Real. "Okay, I'm officially paranoid,"
You think?
she replied. They entered the town hall, and Roby said to Sam, "Dragon was a false alarm. Sorry, kinda like the car backfire." "No harm, no foul," replied Sam, though he looked a bit put off. Eleanor came over to them.
What is going on?
"False alarm, ma'am," said Sam. "We can proceed on schedule and—" He didn't get a chance to finish as a round hit him in the head, spraying everyone with blood. Roby grabbed Eleanor and jerked her downward as Real turned and fired shots in the direction where the round had come. Making her keep low, Roby pulled Eleanor toward the others. He yelled to one Secret Service agent who was shielding the two children, "Get them through that door, now!" Another agent came up to help, and together they pushed the kids ahead of them. Claire started crying as she saw Sam dead on the floor. Tommy looked too afraid to make a sound. Eleanor called out to her children, even as one of the agents with them was hit in the back of the head and went down, falling over a stack of chairs. A body came tumbling down from the second-floor balcony and hit the floor hard. It was one of the deputies from the local police. He'd been shot in the forehead.
They've got the high ground,
Yelled out Real, as she kept backing away, acting as the rear guard and firing widely angled shots at the balcony to provide cover. "Move, move!" Roby urged Eleanor as more shots rang out. The other agent with Claire and Tommy went down with a bullet in his spine. "Real!" yelled Roby. Real catapulted across the room and hit the man who had just appeared in the doorway. Her kick crushed his face and sent him flying backward, his weapon sailing away. Before he could try to get up, Real had fired a bullet into his head. The next instant she was falling backward as another man struck her low, driving his shoulder into her gut. She hit the floor and spun away on the smooth wood. Still, she had her gun and was preparing to fire when a shot rang out. The man who had hit Real stood there stiffly for a second and then toppled forward, his face largely gone from the round Roby had fired into it. Claire and Eleanor screamed as another man raced into the room, brandishing an MP5 submachine gun. But before he could fire, Roby forced him to take cover when he emptied his clip at the man. Roby pulled Eleanor along and through a doorway as Real sprinted across the room, hurdled a table, grabbed both kids, and propelled them into the same interior room, kicking the door shut behind her. Back in the main room, another Secret Service agent and a deputy raced in. The deputy was shot in the chest and went down before even firing his gun. The agent fired 3 shots at the second floor, and a yell indicated that he had struck someone. Then he went down in a hail of fire from the man toting the MP5. But he still managed to empty his clip and kill the man who had just ended his life. Inside the other room, Roby and Real pulled the first family away from the doorway and flattened them to the floor, just in time. The MP5 rounds ripped through it, spraying metal and wood in all directions. As soon as the shooting stopped, Roby and Real led Eleanor and her kids through another interior doorway. He locked the door and then surveyed the room. It was small, windowless, and there was a set of stairs leading down. Real had already eyed it.
Probably the cellar.
She said.
Curved staircase.
Constrained fields of fire, he replied, understanding immediately. Gives us an edge.
Not much choice. Let's do it.
They propelled the first family down the steps. The cellar was even smaller than the room above and had no exit. They were trapped. There was a stout wooden table that they immediately overturned, putting Eleanor and her children behind it. They could all hear the gun battle taking place around them. There were screams, and the zings of bullets missing, and then the thuds of bullets hitting, and then bodies falling. Claire was now hysterical. Tommy simply seemed paralyzed. Eleanor looked at Roby. She was scared, but when she spoke, her voice was firm.
How do we get my children safely out of here, Agent Roby?
Real was surveying the staircase. She had already reloaded, and she'd also taken pistols from the slain agents. She flipped the spare to Roby. Roby said, "We're working on it, ma'am. We will do our best." He tried the walkie-talkie 3 times, but no one answered. Eleanor looked at him in disbelief.
But that means...
She began, shooting a worried glance at her daughter, who was still sobbing uncontrollably. Roby nodded and said quietly, "They're all gone." He punched 911 on his phone. It just rang. They must be swamped with calls, he concluded. He looked at Claire and Tommy. "Tommy." The boy didn't look up. "Wolverine, you with me?" He looked at Roby and gave a small nod. Reel said,
Claire! Claire! Hey, Stevie Nicks, listen up.
Claire gulped, stopped sobbing, caught her breath, and finally looked at her. Reel ran her gaze along the three of them.
We can't sugarcoat this. The situation is bad. We've got some cover here, and we've got some weapons. We don't know how many there are out there, but there's got to be more of them than there are of us. But we are here with you, and we will stay with you the whole way. To get to you, they have to go through us, okay?
The three slowly nodded.
Now stay down behind the table.
A few seconds later, 3 shots rang out, and a man tumbled down the stairs and came to rest at the bottom. Roby looked over to see Rhea lowering her weapon, smoke still rising off the muzzle. She said,
He was trying to be quiet, but didn't quite manage it.
Eleanor said,
I don't hear any sirens. The police force here consists of about 30 sworn officers,
said Rhea.
There were 10 assigned to your detail. They might already be dead. The other side is MP5s, which can do a lot of damage in a short period of time, and pistols are pretty much useless against them. The rest of the cops might not be here yet.
Roby looked around the room and was also listening for footfalls from above. The ceiling was thick. He didn't think the other side could fire through it. They would have to come down the stairs, but they had already sent one man in, and they knew how that had worked out. Roby and Reel had the advantage here because of the curved staircase. Their enemies couldn't attack them en masse or straight on. The curve allowed Roby and Reel to fire before the attackers could line up their shots. They suddenly heard a loud bang from upstairs, and then people screamed, and then there was gunfire, and then more screams, and more gunfire, and then silence. And then they heard voices, but the words were not English.
Shit,
muttered Rhea. She looked at Roby. His gaze was on a shelf in the corner. On the shelf was a stack of old clothes. She once more glanced at Roby, who nodded. Rhea ran and grabbed some of the clothes. She flipped out her knife and started cutting them up.
What are you doing?
Asked Eleanor. Getting us some protection, Roby answered.
But those won't stop bullets,
said Eleanor. When Rhea was done, they worked the small strips of cloth into their ears and then tied other pieces that Rhea had fashioned in the size and shape of kerchiefs around their neck. They helped Eleanor and the kids do the same. What are these for? Asked Tommy.
Flashbangs,
answered Rhea.
That's what we just heard. They're really loud, and the light flash is blinding. And there's a lot of smoke. The other side obviously has them.
They're used to disorient, added Roby. And they do that job well. They heard more shots come from upstairs, and then a number of footfalls. Roby and Rhea eyed each other, and then pushed Eleanor and the kids flat on the floor. Cover your eyes and nose with the cloth, and put your hands over your ears, and stay down. Roby and Rhea took up their positions, one hand on their kerchief to pull it up quickly. Only they wouldn't have much time to recover and return the fire that was surely going to follow the flashbangs. But they didn't have any other options. They heard the door open, and then down they came. Not one flashbang or two, there were 3 of them. Roby and Rhea hit the floor a second before the trio of explosives detonated. The combined sound was deafening, blowing right through the bits of cloth pushed into their ears, and the hands that covered those ears couldn't do much to deaden the noise. The smoke penetrated right through the flimsy cloth and into their mouths, noses, and lungs, and the flashes of light were like looking into the sun, even though they were staring at the floor. Eleanor and her children screamed, and then all 3 passed out. By the time Roby and Rhea staggered to their feet, coughing and sickened by the blast, smoke, and light, they were surrounded and outgunned. MP5s against pistols. North Koreans wanting bloody revenge. It was over. Chapter 75. By the time Eleanor and her children came to, Roby and Reel had their weapons taken from them, and they stood with their hands behind their heads. Their faces were ashen, and they swayed on their feet, looking nauseated and unbalanced.
"Oh, my God,"
said Eleanor as she rose, pulling her children up with her, and then putting them protectively behind her. Composing himself, Roby said to the North Koreans, "This place is surrounded. You're not going to get away. If you surrender now, you will not be harmed." He knew as soon as the words were out of his mouth that the North Koreans didn't care about getting away. He could see it in all their faces. 5 men and 1 woman. The woman was dressed as a pirate. She looked vaguely familiar. Chung Cha stepped forward and said,
"We are here to right the wrongs of your president."
Reel said,
"Gotta tell you, this is not a great way to go about it."
Chung Cha said,
"You and he were in our country. You took prisoners that belonged to us. Your country planned to kill our leader. For that you must and you will pay, all of you."
Eleanor said,
"I have no idea what—"
Ching Sang fired shots into the ceiling. "Do not interrupt, woman!" he roared, as Eleanor, Claire, and Tommy dropped to their knees, shaking with fear. Chung Cha continued,
"You will all die right here. This will be a message to the world that the evil empire of America cannot and will not attack our great country without retribution that is fierce and swift and noble."
Roby said, "You'll need hostages to get out of here. 5 is unmanageable. Take me and my partner. Like you said, we were the ones over there. We took you prisoners. These folks did nothing. Leave them here and use us to get out of here." "We are not getting out of here," said Jin Sang. He pointed his muzzle at the floor. "We die right here. After you do, that is."
"So this is a suicide mission?"
said Reel. Jin Sang smiled and shook his head. "It is death with great honor." He looked at Chung Cha. "Comrade Yi is the very best that we have. She has killed more enemies of our country than you could possibly imagine. Your deaths will at least be efficiently done. That I can guarantee." Chung Cha sliced the air with her hand, and Jing Sang fell silent and took a respectful step back, bowing as he did so. Chung Cha slipped a pair of knives from sheaths riding on her belt. The blades were customized, serrated, and slightly curved. She looked first at Roby and then at Reel. Roby expected to see a face of pure hatred staring at him. Or perhaps he would only be looking at a blank face, all humanity long since driven from her. But that was not what was staring back at him. Jing Sang said nervously, "Comrade Yi, we must hurry. We killed many of the enemy, but we will undoubtedly have more on the way." Chung Cha nodded, said a few words in Korean, and then looked at Roby and Reel. She said in English,
"I am sorry for this."
Then she attacked. She turned and gutted Jing Sang with one of the knives, ripping upward. His gun fell from his grip, but she snatched it before it hit the floor. She fired once, hitting the next man in the brain. With a free hand, she threw her other knife and plunged it into the 3rd man's chest. The other 2 men were stunned by Chung Cha's action, but opened fire. However, she had gripped the 3rd man, spun him around, and used his body as a shield, absorbing the fired rounds. She then pushed him forward into the 2 men, dropped low, slid across the floor, and kicked the legs of the 4th man out from under him. As he fell, she pulled the knife free from the chest of the 3rd man and raked it across the throat of the 4th man. Arterial spray covered her and the floor. Chung Cha never stopped moving. She somersaulted across the floor as the remaining man fired at her but missed. Roby and Reel had grabbed the first family and thrown them behind the table again. Then the pair scrambled across the room to retrieve their weapons. But they were not as fast as Chung Cha. She had pushed off the far wall, flipping completely over the last man. As she went past him, the thin razor line was revealed in her hands. She slipped the wire around the man's neck while she was in midair, hit the ground on both feet, and pulled with all her strength, at the same time crossing her arms and forming an X. The man gurgled once and then dropped to the floor, bleeding out a few seconds later from his nearly severed head. Chung-Cha straightened and then dropped the wire. She turned to look at the devastation she had wrought. 5 men dead, all by her hand, all in less than a minute. She was breathing rapidly, her eyes focused and her limbs tensed. She turned to face Roby and Reel, who had their weapons now. They were pointed at her, but neither of them had their finger on the trigger guard. Roby said, "You want to explain why you just did what you did?" Chung-Cha looked back at Eleanor and her children as they slowly rose from behind the table. Eleanor put her hands over Claire and Tommy's faces so they wouldn't see the dead men.
"I hope that you are not hurt,"
said Chung-Cha. Eleanor slowly shook her head, but her face betrayed her bewilderment.
"I'm okay,"
she said slowly.
"We're okay, thanks to you."
Chung-Cha turned back to Roby and Reel. Reel took a cautious step forward.
"That was the most amazing piece of close-quarter combat I've ever seen. But like my partner said, why?" "We were sent here to kill them,"
said Chung-Cha, indicating Eleanor and her children.
"The others always intended to do this."
"But not you?" asked Roby. Chung-Cha did not answer right away.
"I do not know, but in the end I could not kill this family,"
she added.
"I just could not." "Change of heart?"
asked Reel with a skeptical look.
"I do not have a heart,"
said Chung-Cha firmly.
"I am from Yodok. I will always be from Yodok. They took my heart many years ago. You cannot grow another back."
"Yodok," said Roby. "Then you were—"
"Yes."
Reel studied her more closely and said,
"I've seen you before, near the beach. You were with a little girl."
Chung-Cha nodded.
"Her name is Min."
Tommy spoke up. "She was dressed as a frog. She told me she was 10, and that she needed help or something." Roby looked at Chung-Cha with incredulity. "You brought a child on the mission?" Chung-Cha said fiercely,
"Min is not involved with any of this. She is innocent. She is just a little girl from Yodok, too. She still has her heart. Do not take it from her. Please do not. She is just a little girl who knows nothing."
Reel looked at her.
"Why did you bring Min here?" "I told my superiors it was for part of our cover, that Americans do not think badly of children. But the real reason? To get her out of my country, to give her a chance elsewhere."
Chung-Cha reached into her pocket and slipped out one of the poison vials.
"None of us were supposed to survive this,"
she said. Roby said, "Death with great honor?"
"Including Min,"
said Chung-Cha slowly.
"But I could not let that happen. She has done nothing wrong. Min is just a child, an innocent child." "Then I don't think you lost your heart at Yodok either,"
Reel said quietly. Roby added, "But it was still extraordinary to turn on your own team."
"I am just tired of it,"
said Chung-Cha simply, and her limbs relaxed as she said it.
"Of it all."
Roby and Reel exchanged a knowing glance. He said, "What is your name, other than Comrade Yi?"
"Chung-Cha." "Who are those men, Chung-Cha?"
asked Reel, indicating the dead.
"From my country. Their identities do not matter. There are many just like them back home. There will always be many just like them back home."
"I won't lie to you, Chung-Cha," said Roby. "You're in a world of trouble, even with what you did here." Eleanor said,
"But surely saving our lives will count for a great deal." "You'll have to cooperate and give a full debriefing,"
said Reel.
"Exactly how you were able to get here undetected, how you knew of their itinerary, how you breached security."
The shot rang out and the bullet pierced Chung-Cha's neck. Roby and Reel looked over at the curved staircase. A young deputy was holding his pistol in 2 shaky hands. He smiled and yelled, "I got her! I got the little Asian piece of shit!" Changsha did not fall right away. She simply stood there as blood poured down her front. Roby screamed, "No, you idiot!" He lunged for the deputy and knocked the gun out of his hand. Reel was able to grab hold of Changsha before she fell to the floor. She gently laid her down. She saw the bullet's entry wound and stuck her fingers inside it, trying to close the struck artery, but she couldn't get the bleeding to stop. She tore off her shirt sleeve and pressed the cloth over the wound, trying to staunch the bleeding.
Come on, stay with me. Come on, Changsha, look at me. Focus right on me.
She turned and screamed.
Roby, we need an ambulance, and we need it now.
Roby had already hit 911 on his phone, and this time the call went through. But as he ordered the ambulance, he looked over at Changsha and knew that it was too late. She was already chalk white and covered in blood. Reel looked down at her, cradling her head with one hand, while keeping the cloth pressed against the wound with the other. Changsha lifted her hand and touched Reel's face. In a voice that grew weaker with each word, she said,
Her name is Min. She is dead. Please help her. I will. I promise I will. Min will be fine, but just don't give up. Help is coming. You're going to be okay. Don't leave. You're going to make it. I know you can do it. You're the best I've ever seen.
Changsha did not seem to be able to hear her. She was now mouthing the words over and over.
Her name is Min. She is 10. Please help her.
And then she said quite clearly, with her last bit of breath and a final burst of fire,
I am Changsha. I am young but very old. Please help me.
Then her mouth stopped moving, and her eyes became fixed. Reel just sat there frozen for a long moment, and then gently laid the dead woman's head down on the floor. She looked up at Roby, tears in her eyes. She shook her head once. Then she rose, shoved the deputy out of her way, and walked up the stairs. Chapter 76. The attack on the first family had driven the two countries nearly to war, but a diplomatic stalemate was reached that allowed the North Koreans to save face and kept the administration from having to reveal potentially embarrassing and politically damaging facts about the planned coup on the North Korean regime. The Nantucket attack was blamed on rogue elements within North Korea, their actions denounced by the leadership. There the matter was laid to rest, at least for now. The North Korean team had infiltrated the town hall by virtue of their Halloween costumes. They had killed a guard near the rear door, entered that way, and then sealed off the building, killing the inner cordon of guards as they went along. The lone deputy who had shot Changsha had finally gotten into the building, seen what had happened, and followed the sounds to the cellar, where his shaky aim had still proved lethal, unfortunately for Changsha. Roby and Reel had received the heartfelt thanks of the president and his wife and their children. They were told that they had earned the status of unofficial members of the first family. Tommy was more hero-struck than ever, but both he and his sister were being given counseling to help them cope with what they had seen and endured. Claire was clearly not herself. Her brashness struck clean from her. Now it seemed that her brother was supporting her, which might actually have been a good thing for both of them. Eleanor had warmly embraced Roby and Reel as they were leaving the White House.
My children and I owe you our lives,
she said.
No,
replied Reel firmly.
We all owe our lives to Yi Changsha.
After the White House meeting, Roby and Reel sat in Roby's apartment. They had learned a lot about Yi Changsha through the information pipeline that was the CIA. What they learned had made Reel even more depressed than she already was.
She survived all that, all those years at Yodak, having to kill her own family to get out of that hellhole, starvation, torture, killing on behalf of that rogue nation, and then saving our lives. For what? To take a bullet from an overzealous cop?
He didn't know, Jess. He thought she was the enemy.
Well, she wasn't.
You know, Pyongyang wanted her body returned there. She nodded.
But we didn't do it. She's buried here.
Why do you think she did it? I mean, really?
I took her at her word. She was tired of it all, Roby, just like I am.
I guess.
She was better than us, you know that, don't you?
She probably was. I've certainly never seen anyone take out 5 opponents the way she did.
When she pulled out her knives and looked at us, I knew she wasn't going to attack us.
Why? I mean, I thought she looked conflicted, but she told us she was sorry about it.
Did you ever tell someone you were sorry before you killed them?
Roby sat back in his chair and thought about this, and then finally shook his head. No.
She did it for Min.
Roby nodded again. For Min.
Pretty ingenious the way she got the girl out of the country like that.
Well, if she thought the way she fought, she would have made one hell of a chess player.
6 steps ahead.
Right.
Blue Man seems to think that tensions will simmer down between us and North Korea.
Roby said, until they start to boil again.
I'll take a little peace and quiet for now.
Won't we all?
Which brings us to Min.
Yeah, it does.
Do you think they'll go for it?
Well, everything is in place. So now all we can do is ask, Jess.
Then let's go ask.
You sure?
As sure as I am of anything these days.
Roby grabbed his car keys, and they set out. They had had to jump quite a few hurdles and work their way through various agencies, but then an opportunity had presented itself. They had recruited Kim Suk to help them, and he had readily agreed. They made 2 stops on the way and then completed the drive to the big townhouse in Northern Virginia. Roby had phoned first, and they were waiting for them. Julie Getty opened the door. Standing opposite her were Roby, Real, and Suk, and Min. The little girl was dressed in yellow tights and a long shirt with sneakers. She had a yellow ribbon in her hair. She was well scrubbed, but her face was red for another reason. She had been crying for the loss of Chung Cha, and she was scared.
Hey guys, come on in,
said Julie warmly. Her guardian, Jerome Cassidy, had recovered from his injuries at the hands of Leon Dykes' men and was waiting for them in the family room. He was middle-aged and lean, with long grayish hair neatly tied back. He greeted Roby, whom he knew, and was introduced to Real. Julie's told me a lot about you, said Jerome.
Just the unclassified parts,
amended Julie with a smile. Julie sat next to Min and said,
I'm Julie, Min.
Then she said a few words in Korean, some of which Min understood. Suk laughed. Not bad, but you need practice.
I know,
said Julie with a wry grin. Min said,
I am Min. I am 10. I'm 15. 5 more than you,
replied Julie. Min smiled, but did not seem to understand this. Julie took one of her hands and counted off the fingers.
5, this many.
Min nodded and counted to 5 in Korean. That's right, said Suk. Very good. Jerome said, So, Roby, you filled me in a little bit on this, but I'd like to hear more. Roby explained what he could about where Min had come from, and then what they had come here to ask. Could Min live with them?
She can't go back to North Korea,
said Real. And traditional foster care can get a little tricky with her situation, explained Roby. I know it's asking a lot, but you two were the first ones I thought of. Min can't understand English, really. Hell, she can't understand a lot of things. So if you can't do it, she'll never know we even asked you. Julie said,
I've always wanted a sibling, and being a big sister would be really cool.
She looked at Jerome.
What do you think?
I think, what with all this little girl has been through, she deserves some friends. And maybe we're a good place to start. Real looked at Roby in relief and then turned back to Jerome.
I can't tell you what this means.
I think I know. Wasn't too long ago that yours truly needed a helping hand, or I might not even be here. As they were leaving, they had to explain to Min that she would be coming to live with Jerome and Julie. Suk had agreed to help out until Min's language skills were strong enough. At first, Min clung to Suk, but Julie kept delicately enticing Min away from him, until the little girl finally took Julie's hand and walked off with her. They told Jerome that all the paperwork would be completed, and then he would officially become Min's guardian. "Surprised the government is making it this easy," said Jerome. "I thought their motto was the more paperwork, the better." "Well, the government wants to put all this behind them as fast as they can," explained Roby. On the way back, Reel drove, and when she made a turn that would take them away from Roby's apartment, he instinctively knew where she was going. The place was in rural Virginia. It was small and out of the way, but it had beautiful views of the foothills of the Blue Ridge. It was only about 70 miles from D.C., but it could have been 700. Reel parked the car, and she and Roby got out. The sun was dipping low into the horizon, burning the sky red. The wind was picking up and the temperature was dropping. Rain was coming in, and it would soon turn wet and miserable. Yet for now, right this very minute, there was a simple beauty here that was bone-deep and undeniable. They opened the rusted wrought-iron gate and made their way down the uneven grass path. They passed mostly old tombstones and grave markers. Some leaned at precarious angles. Others were ramrod straight. Near the end of the path and on the left was the newest gravestone here. It was white and resembled those at Arlington National Cemetery. It was simple in design, but powerful in its inspiration. The inscription matched the design's simplicity. Yi Chung-cha, who fought the good fight until the end. No one knew when she had been born and where, and no one knew how old she was. And while they knew the exact date of her death, there did not seem to be a good reason to mark her grave with that violent fact. Reel stared down at the white stone and the hump of dirt.
That could be us down there.
It would have been, but for her.
We are like her, you know that.
There are similarities, Roby admitted.
How do you think she feels being so far from home?
I'm not sure the dead are really concerned with that. And for her, North Korea wasn't much of a home, was it?
I'm glad they didn't send her body back. She belongs... Well, I think she belongs here. It's sort of just right.
It's peaceful enough. And after all she'd been through, the lady deserved some peace.
Like you and me.
Yes, agreed Roby.
I didn't know her, though I wish I could have had the chance. But I know beyond doubt that I will never forget her.
She left a piece of herself here, in Min.
And now she's given Min the chance to have a life. We can help her with that life.
We have helped her.
I mean more than giving her to Jerome and Julie.
Roby looked surprised. Do you want to do that?
Yes, and not just because we owe it to Chung-cha.
Reel knelt down next to the grave and brushed a few leaves off the freshly turned dirt.
It's because... well...
She rose and placed a hand over Roby's.
It's because it's something people should do.
She paused.
Even people like us.
Even people like us, agreed Roby. They turned and walked off together as the light gave way fully to the dark. This has been a Hachette audio production of The Target, written by David Baldacci, read by Ron McClarty and Orla Cassidy, produced and directed by Kevin Thompson, recorded by Adam Runer and Matty Argyropoulos, post-production by Merlin Music, New York City. The Target is also available in print and digital formats from Grand Central Publishing, a division of Hachette Book Group. Text copyright 2014, Columbus Rose Limited. Audio production copyright 2014, Hachette Audio. All rights reserved. In accordance with the U.S. Copyright Act of 1976, the duplicating, uploading, and electronic sharing of any part of this audiobook without the permission of the publisher constitutes unlawful piracy and theft of the author's intellectual property. If you would like to use material from the audiobook other than for review purposes, prior written permission must be obtained by contacting the publisher at permissions@hbgusa.com. Thank you for your support of the author's rights. This audiobook is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either the product of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously, and any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, events or locales, is entirely coincidental.